Hey baby name lovers, I know I promised to have this video to you weeks ago and I'm very sorry for your wait, but I have been getting used to using a Mac after years of using a PC and it has been quite a change. And the day of our wedding, somebody was moving my PC to my car from my friend's car and the screen shattered somehow. I'm not sure if they dropped it or what happened, but the screen is totally shattered in pieces and I would show it to you, but it would probably make me cry. And so I'm having to share BJ's Mac and get used to that, and it's been a huge adjustment. So I was having the hardest time with iMovie and just all of the uploading programs and everything on here. So finally I think BJ worked it out and I am officially a Mac user. So just that little disclaimer as to why I've taken forever. All of the names I'm going to talk about for this video, the plant and flower names video, are girl names. So if you really love plant and flower names for boys, I'm very sorry, but you can talk about them in the comments and maybe I'll do another video later on that or a list of some of those names. The first set of names I'm going to talk about are flower meaning names. So not names of actual plants or flowers, but ones that have meanings associated with flowers. And the most obvious one I think is Flora. Flora hasn't been on the top 1,000 list in the US since 1972. It's kind of like one of those old lady names, but I think it could really make a comeback now because names like Nora and Cora that are traditionally like old lady names for us now, I guess, are really making a big comeback. So I think Flora is due for a comeback as well. Zara is an Arabic name meaning flower or blossom, and I prefer the spelling Z-A-R-A for Zara as opposed to the Arabic spelling, which is Z-A-H-R-A-H. But both are really pretty, and I love the meaning of flower or blossom. One of my favorite flower meaning names is Calantha, and Calantha I just think sounds really classic and beautiful. I mean, it's a great name, so of course it is very classic. And you could use the trendy nickname Callie, but I think I would avoid that because I love Calantha so much. So I think it's really beautiful, and I would consider using it. A related name is Anthea, a Greek name, and when I was in high school, I worked with this woman who was having a baby, and she was going to name it Anthea if it was a girl, and which it wasn't, but it was such a beautiful name, so I really like this one. And the last flower meaning name is Ayana. Ayana is at number 607 on the US popularity chart, so it is in the top 1,000, but not really high up there, and it's an African name, so if you have African heritage and you want to use a name that reflects that, you could use Ayana, which is really pretty, and I think it's easily pronounced, even in English-speaking areas. The next list I'm going to talk about are actual names of plants and flowers, and the first few I'm going to talk about don't appear in the top 1,000 at all, so your child wouldn't be likely to have the same name as several other classmates. Poppy is a name that I absolutely hated at first. Like, people started talking about it and I was like, that's disgusting. It sounds like a grandfather, like Poppy, and it's just weird. But now I actually kind of really like it. It's on my favorites list, kind of at the bottom, but I think I would use it as like a nickname for Philippa. They would kind of have the option of using a more professional name, and then Poppy is kind of a cute nickname. And it reminds me of the scene in Wizard of Oz where Dorothy walks into the poppy field and falls asleep, but I don't really remember why that happens or anything. A plant name that I've started seeing a lot of lately, and mostly on Formspring, is Briar. And although I'm not really sure I'd want to name my daughter after a thorn, I think it sounds really pretty, and I like that it's the name of Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose, so I like that. And it's kind of a guilty pleasure name of mine, and I'd like to see someone else use it, but it probably won't be a name that I ever really seriously consider using. Another flower name that's shown up on Formspring a lot lately is Primrose, and I have such mixed feelings about this name because I can imagine a little girl named Primrose, and she's so precious and adorable, and then I think about an adult Primrose, a middle-aged woman, and it really doesn't work so well. Even though they could use Rose, I guess, but maybe as a middle name, Primrose could be kind of sweet. I'm not sure that I'd use it, though. The name Bryony really caught my attention in the movie Atonement. In the movie, and I think in the book, she spells her name B-R-I-O-N-Y, but I think both are pretty, both are easily pronounced in the US, even though they've never been in the top 1,000 ever. Even though the character in the movie wasn't that sweet, I think the name kind of sounds sweet, Bryony. but it's not on my favorites list. That's another plant and flower name for you. The next name on my list is one that you're either going to love or you're going to hate, and that's clover. And I had someone ask me about this on Formspring and ask if it was usable because they really loved it, and I think it could be. I met a little girl named Riley Clover whose parents had immigrated from Ireland and named her Riley Clover and her brother Lyric Ireland to kind of represent their heritage. So I thought that was really neat, but I don't have Irish heritage or any connections to Ireland at all, so I don't think that I would be likely to name my daughter Clover. I wanted to talk about the name Jessamine because jasmine is so popular in the United States. It's at 51 on the popularity list. Jessamine is the French variation of jasmine, so you have kind of the same meaning and the same sound, but it's a lot less common, and I don't think people would think it was that unusual because Jessica is so popular, but Jessamine I think is a lot prettier than Jessica, a lot more unique. The last name on my unranked names list is Tansy. And Tansy to me just sounds so frou-frou and over-the-top cutesy, but it kind of fits in with names that are getting more trendy and popular, like Kennedy and Paisley for girls that are hitting the charts. So I can see Tansy being really popular, and it reminds me of the character in Material Girls, played by Hilary Duff, who's like really full of herself, and her name's Tansy. The next few names on my list are all in the top 1,000 for girls right now. Some of them are super popular and some of them are kind of towards the middle of the list, but they're actual names of plants and flowers if you can't tell by looking at them, which I really couldn't because I'm not a horticulture guru at all, so I had to look up some of these. But the most popular plant or flower name on the top 1,000 list is lily. And lily is at number 18. Totally love lily. I just think it's so sweet, but I can't use it because it sounds really bad with my last name, so even as a middle name, it wouldn't sound very good at all. So I know why it's popular though, because it's really pretty, but Lily, I have to let go of Lily. Violet is at number 141 on the charts, and it does not sound terrible with my last name, so I'm definitely considering Violet for a girl's name. And it's jumping so quickly though, so I really hope it plateaus in the mid-100s. And if you look over the past few years, it went from not being in the top 1,000 at all to jumping hundreds every year, and that really worries me. But every time I say Violet to my husband, he says, "You're turning violet, Violet," like from the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I love Violet, it's so precious. And the next name is also on my favorites list, along with several other ones I'm about to talk about, actually. I really like Greek names like Calantha, I mentioned that, and this is no exception. Iris is at number 317, and it's more popular than I would have expected, but it is one of those names that ages really well, so if it's somebody in your family, someone that's passed away, you could use Iris and it would work on a little girl as well. Ivy is just a few places behind at number 320, and I love Ivy so much. Ever since watching The Village, I just really liked Ivy a lot, and I love the character Ivy, and I love the name so much. And it reminds my husband of an IV, like at a hospital, but it doesn't remind me of that at all when I hear it. Sage is in the 300s for girls. It's a unisex name, and I like it for girls and boys, which is really unusual for me because I usually don't like unisex names at all, or I like them for one or the other sex. But it's at 761 on the boys list, so not very popular for boys, a lot more popular for girls. I don't think I would use it though, just because I usually like really feminine names for girls. Dahlia is the Latin name, and it's at 660. I would love to meet a little girl named Dahlia. I don't know any, and I think it's so sweet. And it's just such a precious name, and it sounds great in all different countries. Some people say it Dahlia, but the American pronunciation is Dahlia, and I think it's really, really pretty. Those are my plant and flower names. In case you were wondering and couldn't tell, Violet and Ivy are my two favorites from this list. And I also really like Calantha, so that's like an honorable mention. But tell me about your favorites, leave a comment and just let me know, or also suggest ideas for future videos just so I can be working on those. And I hope you guys subscribe. Check out my Formspring at formspring.me/babynames. And thank y'all for watching.